It's 3:25. I'm late. Why did I walk so slowly? I know the rules. If I'm not home by 3:15, she'll lock the door on me. I put my hand on the doorknob, and I'm filled with fear and uncertainty. I never know the mom that I'm going to get. Is she going to be in a good mood? Is she going to be in a bad mood? I turn the doorknob, and it's locked. I have to ring the bell. I ring the doorbell, and she comes to the door. She brushes back the drapes, and she looks at me with this angry scowl. She opens the door, and she says, "You're late." As I follow her inside the house, I'm apologizing and making excuses as to why I'm late. But it doesn't matter because she's not listening to me. She's mad. And in that moment, I realized that how I choose to respond to her is going to either set her off or it could actually temper her mood. And that would be the difference for the rest of my day. I just want to say the right thing. Yesterday, I was late, but I got an entirely different mom. I came home at 3:20, the door was unlocked, I came in, and there I was greeted by a mom who was happy to see me and in a great mood. I just never knew the mom that I would get. You know, some days she would be so carefree that it wouldn't even matter if I was 30 minutes late. But other days, if I was just a few minutes late, forget it. And that's the perspective of bipolar disorder from the view of a child. I never knew the mom I would get. My childhood was probably not like yours. I feared being late and I feared going home. There was this one time when I came home after school and she locked the door on me, but she made me sit outside on the cold pavement for over an hour. There I sat, just waiting for her to let me in. And when I think about it, that was the backdrop of my childhood. I was always waiting for her to let me in. You know, time has now passed, and it's 15 years later. My hand is on the doorknob, but this time I'm visiting my parents at their beach house, which is now their home. And nothing has changed. My hand is on the doorknob, and I have my fiance and my future in-laws with me. And I don't know what to expect. I just want her to be stable today. Nothing too off, just stable. Well, Mom was in a manic state that day. She was running around, acting strangely, and not caring about how she occurred to anybody, especially our guests. And with every interaction that she had with my in-laws, I was creating these stories in my head of what they were thinking about her, what they were thinking about me and our strange family. The most amazing and most beautiful part of it was we got in the car to go home, and I tried to make excuses and try to apologize for my mom's manic behavior that day, but it didn't matter. I had the most amazing, loving in-laws who had already accepted me and loved me into their family for who I was. Unfortunately, the backdrop of my childhood was already created. This uncertainty, this self-doubt, this lack of self-confidence. It would show up for me professionally. I would be provided these professional opportunities to speak up and make a difference and make a contribution, right? But no, I would sit there quietly because what I had to say probably wasn't going to make a difference. Or even worse, I would say something and it could cause an outburst. So I played the safe card, and I just didn't show up. I mean, I was present, but I didn't show up. And I also had this dream. I wanted to write a book. I wanted to write a book about my childhood, and I wanted to share it with the world because I wanted there to be a new hope around bipolar disorder. But I would say to myself, no, what I have to say won't make a difference. So I didn't do it. So, you know, growing up with my bipolar mom and my father and the situation, I had a lot of anger, a lot of resentment, and a lot of frustration. I blamed them for the struggle that I had with my insecurities, my lack of confidence, and I blamed it all on them, right? Because it showed up for me as an adult, and I said, if they would have just done a better job, I would be better, right? Blamed it on them. So then I took this really powerful 3-day self-development program about 3 years ago. And I remember being in the class. It was a course. There were about 150 people. And the instructor turns to all of us in the audience and he says, I would like the 17 to 23-year-olds to please stand up. And when he does, he says to us all, okay, take a good look at them and consider that these were your parents when they had you. And then he said, I'd like for you to reflect on what you knew at that age. And that was when it hit me like a boulder. Here I was being judgmental and critical of my parents and the job that they did or didn't do, when really they were doing the best that they could with what they knew. And oh, my mom was doing it with this thing called bipolar disorder. And in that moment, all of that anger and resentment started to melt away. And in its place came love, compassion, and understanding. It also sent me down the road of inquiry. You know, I wanted to step into the world of what it was like for someone to live with bipolar disorder. I watched documentaries, I read books, and I watched videos. And I got myself really present to what a day in the life could have been like for my mom. And in that program, I also got present to the fact that I am not my past, right? So all of those experiences growing up with my mom, they made up my past, but they don't dictate the future. I have a say in how things are going to go. And that was also when the fear and uncertainty of the doorknob shifted for me, right? So uncertainty used to always just have an outcome of varying degrees of bad. And now I looked at uncertainty and said, wouldn't that be amazing if it was exciting? And I saw that there could be other possibilities there. Fast forward, and I find myself in a leadership development class. The instructor turns to us and says, if you could make a difference in this world, if you could change something, what would it be? If you could leave your imprint somehow on the planet, what would you do? The pen is in your hand. Mine immediately came to me. I didn't want children to have the same disadvantage that I had growing up, with a mom who was emotionally unavailable to me. I wanted children to be present to their own greatness, to realize that they were whole, perfect, and complete just as they are. So in that program, I declared that I would create a community service project, and my two focuses would be on bullying and childhood obesity. So I didn't want to focus on the bullying in a negative sense. I wanted to focus it on self-esteem, self-confidence, and self-awareness. And I wanted them to realize they had the potential to do whatever they want. And instead of focusing on obesity, I wanted there to be a new, fun relationship for children between food and movement. Fast forward, and I create a program called Perfect, Just the Way You Are. And then, as I'm developing the program, roadblocks show up. Obstacles show up. I have no idea what I'm doing. I've never done this before. All of those challenges would push me far outside of my comfort zone. And then the doorknob would show up. But this time, it was different. I refused to allow what was on the other side of that door to scare me. You see, just before the program was to launch, we were told we had no money. The program was at risk of being canceled. That was when I picked up the phone and I called one of our most senior leaders and I asked her for the money. And she said yes. And it was amazing. I was beside myself. I was standing for something bigger than myself. I was allowing my commitment to something bigger to pull me forward. Well, fast forward, June 2013, Perfect Just the Way You Are launches in Paterson, New Jersey. There are 55 children enrolled in the after-school program. And the program is successful. We have children that are present to their greatness. They're having fun. The teachers and the principal reported to us that the program had made a substantial difference and actually shifted the culture in the school. And this all happened under the leadership and support of the Hispanic Organization for Leadership and Achievement. Today, the program is expanding. Just last week, between an OLA chapter collaboration between Fort Washington and Springhouse, the program kicked off in a middle school in Pennsylvania. I am in awe by our organization. We're so fortunate to work for a company that has a credo as the backbone, and that our credo actually encourages us as employees to get out there and make a difference in the world. For me, I'm blown away that Perfect Just the Way You Are started off as merely an idea created from nothing. Amidst my journey, there are several things that I am clear about now. I am sick and tired and complete with complaining and feeling sorry for myself for growing up with a mom who had bipolar disorder. I'm clear now that my mom was perfect just the way she was. I'm also clear that my journey and my childhood was perfect. If I would have never come down this journey, I would never be the strong, determined woman who's committed to making a difference in the world. Thank you.